Today's title for class is Unity or Menu. Let's talk about the end. So what I would do just to manage expectations is take probably about half an hour to cover some information relating to that topic, and then open up for questions of anything that you may have that your soul is seeking, searching answers for, relating to our doctrine of Wu-Sabat. Just going to put my phone on silent. So if you do have any questions while I'm going through the first half hour, if you could just write them down or make a note of them on your phone or something, so that we can get through that first half hour without interruptions. And then of course you'll have the opportunity to ask any questions. People on Clubhouse, if you'd like to come up on stage, just raise your hand, and the moderator, Sakam, will bring you up on stage so you may ask your questions. Those on Zoom, it's the same. You raise your hand, and then we'll give you the opportunity to unmute your mic and ask your question. If you don't have access to a microphone or don't want to speak, you can also ask your questions in the chat, both on Zoom and also on Clubhouse. You can just type your question, and then the moderators or myself will go through those questions at some point as well. All right, so for newcomers, it's always important for us to give you a little bit of background information as to who we are. So what I'm going to do is share our official website, the United Sabians Worldwide official website. That's a good source of information if you're new and trying to figure out who we are, what we're about, etc. So let me just share that with you all. Those on Zoom anyway. So this is our official website for those on Zoom. United or just UnitedSabiansWorldwide.com. All right. From here, you can get to, find out about who the Black Messiah is. His Excellency Dr. Malachi Kobina York. We affectionately refer to him as Pa Nabab Yanun, which means Pa is the in our language, the Master Yanun. Okay, so Pa Nabab Yanun, the Master Yanun, because he is a master at teaching, and his assignment to this planet was actually to come and teach us and raise us and give us back our true way of life, remind us of who we really are, and help us to activate the divine in us as the original gods and goddesses of this planet, from who all others come from. And most people have actually forgotten who they are because of the technology and the fact that, a lot of information has been hidden, distorted, to the point that a lot of people are confused on the planet. So one had to be sent as a guide to come and to wake those who are already up for the great journey. That journey begins with yourself, and it's down to you how far you take that journey by way of how you apply the information and the knowledge that's being bestowed on you, because you have a part to play as well. And so, yeah, that's the website. We do have many websites because we have locations all over the world, and a number of stores, so people can actually go to their local or nearest vicinity, and you can find that information from the contact us on the website by going to bookstores. We have lots of plans to open more stores in areas where we don't currently have any bookstores or communities. because we are a worldwide organization, or shall I say a worldwide people culture. So from the bookstores tab, you can see we have locations in New York, here in the United Kingdom, or London, North Carolina, Washington, D.C., Jamaica, Barbados, Ohio, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Georgia. There are 2 stores in Georgia. You can press the plus sign to get the details of each location, each store. They open at different times and may also have their own website. And then we've got Delaware, Canada. So for us in the United Kingdom, we do have our own website as well. People ask, why have so many websites? We have stores on these websites, and when you're ordering from the UK, it will make more sense for you to order from the UK, so you don't have to pay shipping prices from abroad, and vice versa. Of course, people still choose to order from wherever they want, but you have to be mindful that you're going to pay the shipping charges, so it's easier to go to your local community. All right, so on our website, you will find information about who we are, what we teach, and if you'd like to join us, we have a Join Us button on there, and we also have one on the worldwide site where it's got free registration. And your registration just means that we know who you are, you've made contact, and then you have to then take the initiative to get more involved, like, you know, come to classes, come to events, help out at the stores, get close to knowing what is required, because a lot of the times people are at different stages in terms of what they want from this. In terms of, some people just want to read good books, and that's it. So they read the information, and that's about as far as it goes. They're just readers. And it's better to read this information that's going to help you recalibrate your mind and get your mind in order than to read a lot of fiction or whatever. So there are those who just read. There are those who take it further and want to become a part of the, you know, the culture by living it. So people then, you know, help out in the stores. They start to work their way into the different spiritual orders. We have many orders, as you can see from the website. You know, there are orders for young people, such as the Mudrasu Tashruk, which is a student association. We have an elders association, the Order of Hathor, the Brotherhood, or the original Egyptian Masonic order. We have the Sisterhood, or the OES, you know, and the Sabian Grand Chapter. So the Order of the Eastern Stars, that's what the OES stands for, right? So you have to find, it's like, you can't really wait for someone else to do for you what you need to do for yourself. Does that make sense? Like, a lot of people just, the difference between, I guess I'll use the terms God and goddesses lightly, but we can go into that in more detail in the class. But some people just wait to be spoon-fed, or to be told what to do, or to, like, it's like, okay, let me give you a good analogy. You know, like the traffic lights, when you go to cross the road, you got the little green man that comes to tell you that it's safe to cross the road. All right, some people, they will wait for that light to cross the road. Sensible, but if there are no cars coming for like 20 minutes, are you going to stand there and wait for the green light to tell you to cross the road? You know, so you have to be able to use your 9 mind, your 9 reasoning, your ability as a god, as a goddess, to make decisions, to make moves. Because, yeah, if you just wait there, you're never going to cross the road, you know. So that's kind of why I'm saying, like, participate. Don't just spectate, all right? Okay, let's get into the class for today. I just want to make sure people on Zoom. Okay, someone is coming in. Right. Everyone on Zoom, Clubhouse, share the room, let other people know that we're live, for them to also have the opportunity to take in the good news. Okay, so the title today, Unity or Menu. Let's talk about the end. Inspired by this small scroll called Let's Talk About the End by Partner Babyanun, the master teacher, many, many years ago. I'm going to read excerpts from some of the scrolls, starting with Parlahed Shalel Wakut, the language of time. I'm just going to read a bit from the first page, the introduction, because as I said at the beginning, tones, vibrations, and frequencies are so important. When we speak, that's tones. When we sing, chant, that's all sound. Okay, and the universe began with a sound that is still resonating till now, till today. And a lot of people out there, like I'm talking about like different teachers, different organizations, people that you're now seeing on YouTube, social media, everyone is now giving the information that Partner Babyanun, the master teacher, was giving years ago when people weren't even aware of it. And some of that information, over the years, other people have started to regurgitate it, and he's always said it's fine as long as the information gets out. But the reason I'm saying about the tones is that he is a 3 tones in one being. He demonstrated this on one of the recordings. I can't remember the title of it, but on one of the recordings where he was breaking down about sound and how the devil and the adversaries of our race, how they use music in terms of taking our very talented singers and musicians and so on, and getting them to sing in the falsetto, which is a high-pitched voice, and also turning natural music or natural instruments into electronic by, you know, Yamaha and these companies that started to take away natural tones. Because when you're dealing with the tones, like when I mention these other leaders and all these people teaching, they don't have the tones, because when you're dealing with opening gateways, right? When I say gateways, I'm talking about there are different types of gates which we can look at. You have the 9 gates of irreality, but you also have gates, as in gateways to go from dimensions to dimensions, or from planet to planet to different galaxies, etc. And these portals or gateways are opened by having the tone. Most of these leaders, they can have information, but they don't even dare to tell you that they know the way out of it, or that they know how to open these gateways. So it's not just about information, it's also about putting it into practice. Like, people can teach Egyptology, but they don't build a Tamaray or Egypt of the West like we did, and reenact and actually do all the rituals and know all the information, the hidden mysteries of ancient Egypt, you see. So Partner Babyanun is expressing and emphasizing to us in this language book that I'll just read the introduction, that you need this if you're going to actually make it. And when I say unity, by way of the title of the class, he also has been asked many times, what is it that we need to do for him to be released, or for his freedom? And all he has ever asked of us is love and unity. He says that's love and unity, and we hold the key to free him. And by way of the language is the way we're going to do it. So in the introduction of this, the language of time, it says, you are regaining that knowledge by way of Parnatharu, the overseers. And another thing I noticed with some newcomers, they mix up Pa Natharu with Nagaru. Natharu or Nagad Naru. The Natharu are the overseers. When we say Nagaru, we're talking about the Negroid race, right? So sometimes you can tell by the way people are asking the questions, they mixed up the two, but let me carry on. You are regaining that knowledge by way of Pa Natharu, the overseers, by way of myself, Pa Nabab Yanun, Yananan. Now, Pa Natharu, the overseers, have given you all a way of guidance, Pa Tarak, Pa Taruk, the way, to align your akal, mind, to the sound, right reasoning. And it's very important that you dissect words and really take the time to, like when you're reading, sometimes people will read, they come across a word, they don't know what the word means, but they skip it and carry on reading. You should really stop, get a dictionary or a definitionary, look up the word, understand what it means, and then carry on, right? And when you see something, sometimes you can read it. Like here, I just said the sound right reasoning, but you can say sound. Now, sound can be sound as you hear, or sound as in something solid. You see what I'm saying? So dissect the word. So the sound right reasoning. Right is not wrong. What's reasoning? Reasoning is the ability to use your mind to process the information at a higher level than thinking. You see, so when you can think about something, but to reason is a higher level of thinking. So you're not just thinking, you're actually trying to make sense and break down what it is you're thinking. The akal, mind, of today's world only reflects detriment, derelicts, the butchered and perverted fakarat thoughts, dawaj, evil, has truly been made fair seeming, and the forms of entertainment is a reflection of that demented or diminished mentality. Showing that, that's what I'm saying. If you're reading that, you came to the word demented or diminished. Again, I'm not trying to what's the word, undermine anyone, but I'm just saying, if that was me reading, I'll be like, what does diminished mean? And I'll look it up. Diminished means going down, like reducing, or a diminished mentality. So your mentality is diminished, showing the lack of creativity of these disagreeable beings whose objective is to keep you from becoming divine. So their objective is to keep you from becoming divine, which you will return to as it is with natural nature. That is who you are. They know this and do everything they can to prevent you from returning to your natural nature, which would lead to rebirth. Okay? So we might think we're already here. So you say rebirth, that's to be born again. The Saim, divine you. You must return everything that is not naturally for and to you and give it back. Give everything back to them and reclaim your own, your true self. So I guess that's the challenge, isn't it, for people, where we say, in order for you to regain and be yourself, you have to give them back everything that they gave you, which was designed to keep you from becoming yourself. All right, so to give everything back, what are we talking about? Give them back their language, their dress, their foods, their jobs, everything. But the thing is, once you give it back, then what? You have to have your own, right? You have to create your own. Because, if you give it back, you still need to eat, you still need to sleep, you still need to function. So we have to rebuild our own stuff. And right now, I was watching something in the mainstream, and well, I've seen it before, but there are cities that Mukasu Europeans are building just for themselves. And I saw something that was shared on social media, and the European that they were speaking to, he was like, "Oh, we don't mind, black people having their own stuff." And the sister that was actually talking about that incident, she then broke down like, "You say that, but that's not actually true, because when you look at every time we've attempted to do that, whether it's Black Wall Street or even as recent times with us having 476 acres of land and rebuilding Tamaray to be of and by ourselves, they find a way to stop it, or we allow them, shall I say, by way of the weak ones amongst us, to allow it to be destroyed or whatever. And obviously now you have people like Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso that is doing it, and I think now there's a time where people have actually started to really wake up and see that we have to have stuff for ourselves. We can't rely on anyone, because if you rely on someone, then you're still in slavery. All right? Okay, let me carry on to get to the point I really want to touch on this reading. Nuapui, Nuapik, your own land, Nuapia, your own way of life, Wu-Nawap or Wu-Sabat, your own masak, music, your own hadab, culture, your own dress, even the fabric you wear. Everything gives off a vibration, color, sound, or tone. Everything gives off a vibration, color, sound, or tone. All of this affects the tone that your khatat, your body, naturally vibrates at, and does alter what is natural to you. So if your body vibrates on F and you are constantly exposing your body to another note, higher, more pitchy, it will affect your khatat, body, down to the molecular level. That's down to the molecules, because you're held together by atoms, which obviously are composed of minute particles, and the molecules, down to the cells, right? The very cells of your body can be altered. That's why I was saying that they changed the music from natural instruments to synthetic instruments, from the way we speak naturally, which is from the diaphragm. We have a deeper tone. They turned that to singing high, singing through the nasal, or falsetto. So you go back and you look at the musicians or the bands back in the day, like the OJs, they were all singing very high to get record deals. All right, so let me keep going. So to the molecular level, the very cells of your body can be altered. You must return to your own to become the divine you again. Now this is the key part of why I read this. Those who have not made this shift will be left behind. Those left behind and the mentally dead will be food for the gods. In the very literal sense of these words, food for the gods. These beings who have gained control of this Mikhab planet and their offspring are preparing for a departure as well, yet have secured food for their journey. Theirs and those of you who choose not to love yourself and have not only sought to live in another's image other than your natural own, yet have given up what they no longer have and have lost long ago, their ba'ah, soul. Yeah. It is the emotional body, nashat, energy in motion, which will propel your ka'ah, spirit, to the next plane where they cannot go. So when we talk about going different realms, different planes, you can only go there to the higher ones if you have a soul. People have a soul, but it may be dimmed or not activated, right? And others don't have a soul at all. And they operate purely on instincts or by way of their spirit. Okay, so we explain that the spirit is dealing with, you've got different levels or different realms and different vibrations. So you can be on the lower planes, like this plane here, or we call it the material plane, or the physical realm. And but within each realm, there are variations or subtleties that govern that. So someone might be, okay, let's say, for example, we have the mind, right? The mind is not in your head, but it's a reservoir that you connect to or tap to, just like the other higher realms. So you can be connected to them, but to the lower levels, not the highest levels, you see. So what we're saying is that everything that is in the physical, in the three-dimensional world, has spirit. Animals have instincts and they have spirits. Rocks, trees, you know, they all have spirits, but they don't have souls. This is why a rock can't cry or dance or have emotions, whereas, you know, we can. Now, you can look at people that don't have a soul and they may appear to have one if they're able to, what you might call dance, like what I just said. But there's a difference from imitating and doing something naturally. So a lot of people can be fooled and say, you say certain people don't have a soul, but they can dance. No, what they've done is, using technology, is change what you think dancing is. Do you follow? So they've made dancing into choreography, where you'll learn and you're taught moves, and someone would teach you the move and then you do it. Whereas before, you would be able to just put music on and tell people to dance, and you would be able to see who was able to dance. Because those people that were in tune with nature and connected to the soul and had the soul will be able to move. But now, choreography has made it to the point where anyone can seem like they're dancing, but they're not really dancing. They're just following choreography to the beat. All right, so, all right, let's keep going. So today's class is called Let's Talk About the End. Now, obviously, before we talk about the end, or what people might consider to be the end, it's important to know about the beginning. And this is important because people forget that the beings that would have been here first, right, have evolved and are evolving further. Just like if you look at a baby that just arrived, say today, they're evolving, right? Those of us who've been around before the baby came along, we know and have information of this world to the point where we can tell you, for example, how mobile phones evolved, or computers, or whatever else we can think about in our lifetime. And, you know, you can go back, say, 100 years from now, before now, and you'll be able to see how things evolved. So what you have to remember is that from the time you arrive, it's not the beginning of everything. And if you were not there at the beginning, then you have no knowledge of how that works or how it happened before you came along. I'm saying that to say that humans are often obsessed with the beginning. And when you tell them a beginning that happened before they were there, or say they didn't know. Like, for example, most people grew up knowing that, or being told that the beginning was with the Bible and the gods and the people in religion like Allah and so forth. But then if you didn't know what happened before that, and that's all you believed, but then beings that were there before that came along and then they teach you and say to you, look, that's not the beginning. Then now you've opened them up to know something different to what they thought they knew, right? So I'm saying that to say our ancestors that were right at the beginning of what we're calling our universe, they know information that we don't know, to the point where until the master teacher partner Babyanun comes along and breaks information down that no one else knows, up until that point, people just go by what the mainstream are saying. Like right now, they don't know there were other universes before this one. They see this universe as the only universe. Now they're speculating and saying, because if you research multiverse and omniverse and things that now they're talking about, they're still looking at it like it's a theory. But in the Holy Tablets, the Master already wrote in here that there are 7 universes. And this was in the 90s. But today, they're still speculating that there aren't any other universes. But when they do come to find out or realize, then they will start talking about it as if they came up with it. So this Holy Tablets starts off, right? This is important because we're talking about unity and whether or not you're going to end up on the menu if we don't unite and do what we're supposed to do. And then we're going to talk about what's going to happen and what we're calling the end. Because this is another question people are obsessed with, the end. All right, so it says, I call you to accept this truth as bestowed upon me by the masters who guide my pen. That's very important because we tell people that the information, or rather outformation that comes from the master or by way of the master, it's not him, it's coming through him, right? Because his pen is guided. And if you haven't read that that update that's on the website, I'm going to see if I can find it. I'm not going to read it because it's quite long. But the one that is called A Savior is Born or something like that. Let me just confirm that. It explains how when he was being born, how these beings came to him and what they gave him when they came to the hospital was, yeah, it's called Unto Us a Savior is Born. All right, so yeah, that one there, right? So if you click on that, you can read it. But I'm just emphasizing that one of the gifts that he received was a golden pen, right? And you can read this when you have some time, but I'll just scroll through it. That's the beings, the 3 beings that came to visit him, okay? And am I still sharing my screen online? Sure. Okay, yeah, so this is where he came from, the star system known as Ilion, a tri-solar system. There you go. They gave him that pen, right? And the golden ink as a baby. And he wrote with it to tell you that he's not an ordinary child, right? And it gives you the whole story of what happened here. So for those who want to read it, do that in your own time. But anyway, he says, I call you to accept this truth as bestowed upon me by the masters who guide my pen. For of myself, I could not have done the works of it. And it goes on. There were a host of great Nuwapian leaders such as Dus Ali, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Sheikh Al-Hajj Dawood Faisal, Clarence Jawaz Smith, Clifton E. Marsh, Noble Jew Ali, Marcus Garvey, to name a few, who have all contributed to the upliftment of the fallen and trodden over and much abused Nuwapian Moors. Many newsletters, books and papers have been written, yet the conditions of the Nuwapians have not changed. As the saying goes, Allah does not help a people until they help themselves. It is time for you to get up and do something for yourselves. Then he goes on to say, this is the scripture that is divinely inspired, that will bring about a long overdue change. Like the phoenix bird raising up out of its ashes, up, you mighty people, come forth like Lazarus from the tomb. This tablet is the food to feed the hunger and to nourish the soul. to give it strength, rise up, stand up, be counted amongst the people of this world. This tablet will restore the Savior to the soul, that you may spice the whole world, that you may taste the sweet savor, and that you may spice the lives of all that you may come in contact with. For in these tablets is no doubt. It's the true guidance and that you can be sure of. But only those with an inner ear will be able to hear the voice of our Heavenly Father calling his children to gather on the holy land, Kadesh. That was our land, the golden city of Wahani, and sit at the feet of his son, the lamb, that has been transformed into the lion. All right. But the bit I want to, I'll jump a bit. It says, this holy scripture is needed. The holy tablets come from the ancient original tablets inscribed in cuneiform, later borrowed and in part to form what became the Torah, which became the Holy Bible, which yielded many scriptures, Old as well as the New Testament, and even later the Holy Quran or Quran. This is by far the greatest of all, for it contains all they were trying to express but couldn't, because they didn't have the whole truth and all the facts. But the reason, that's to put into perspective for newcomers what we're teaching, but the bit I actually want to read from the Holy Tablets that relates to what I'm talking about in terms of trying to find the beginning. It says, okay, Tablet 1, Chapter 1, it says, Lo, O my children, allow me to speak with you, for it is time, again, every 25,000 years, for the renewal of your way of life, Nuwapu. Let me speak with you of the beginnings, with an S, of life before and after the knowledge bestowed upon you of your very own creation, and the making of this planet you call Earth, and the many other planets of which you have no knowledge of. 2. Your soul, that is, the emotional you is about to embark upon a journey through time and space within existence. All right. So already the master was teaching us that, because up until this point, the religious world only talk about creation, right? They'll say God created everything. They will take you to creation. But when you break down what the word creation means, it's to make something or to form something. But here he's already told you in the first page of a very thick book, he's saying that he's going to take you, or you're going to embark upon a journey through time and space within existence. So existence is before creation. Through a time not yet encountered by the behemoth, the human beast, and the human beings, the children of the Aluhum, the human beings of Hu, creative force of will, and Mim, also Mami, meaning deity of birth, which is another name for Mother Ninti. So I'm going to jump to verse 4. He says, let me start by telling you about the beings that existed trillions of Earth years ago, before the Precambrian period, before you human beings were created in the physical form upon the planet Tamat, now called Earth, from the word Iridu. There existed supreme beings of pure green light, ethereal, and sub-supreme beings of the impure amber light, fire. You cannot fully comprehend their beginnings because their time zone is much greater than your ability to comprehend at this time. Right? So I'm saying that when people are trying to figure out the beginning, they have to realize you're talking about trillions and trillions of years ago. You're talking about entities that existed as gases in air pockets 76 trillion years ago. Those are conscious gases, meaning that they actually have intelligence, they're aware. That's how far back they are. So if you were not there and you came much, much, much later on, when you had the planets evolve, you had, in fact, before that, you had the galaxy evolving, and then the universe, then the galaxy, and then to our solar system with the various planets before even like the type of life forms. Like we had like these conscious gases. That's why when we say nine ether, we're saying the combination of all existing gases at the same time, conscience and conscious. So in that form, you're not the way you are now. But as the beings that grew from there till now, going back to what I was saying at the beginning, they're connected to that and we are connected to that. But obviously, we've fallen so far down that only a being that has access to that information that was there is able to come and teach you and take you there. And you yourself have to be upgraded and reminded and taught because you've been maimed to the point where we're using less than 10% of our brain. So in order for you to learn about that information or to even be able to travel to these places, one has to be chosen and sent. And that's what Parnabab Yanun is. And you can tell by way of the information that he has come to give us. And there's still so much more. So giving everything back means you don't even know what day it is. You don't know what time it is. Most people don't know how to breathe properly. People don't know how to walk properly. People don't know how to sleep properly. And these are just very basic things. And of course, you can always ask questions to expound. So we have our own calendar, our own time and everything, because time is one of the ways that you're thrown off. How am I doing with my half an hour? Wow, it's gone already. All right, let me just touch a bit on this book and then we'll get to the nitty-gritty of what we're expecting to happen. So this book called Let's Talk About the End. And one of the reasons a lot of people will say like we're now in a new doctrine, or like even the holy tablets that I read has expired. As thick as you can see that is, and if you see how thin the pages are on this book, you can see just how much information is in there. Even though it has expired, because he has started to give us what he really came to give from the year 2000, the hereafter doctrine. That's the master secrets, Partaruk, and of course actual facts. But we still have to be able to connect the dots and tie everything in from the time he started teaching and opening the seventh seal in 1970 till today. And that's why we always go back and look at things, because he was telling us things back then, but if you were not ready mentally, you would miss it or won't even see it. But when we tie it in and bring it to today, you can see how it all lines up, and that's the part you have to play as the deity within you to put the pieces together. Okay, the scroll is called Let's Talk About the End. Now, let's really talk about the end. This is the introduction. That's what you've been hearing about for years from your teachers, your preachers, your environmentalists, your scientists, etc., etc., who all have their ideas of when the end will come, how the end will come, and even what will happen after the end has come. And what is this end that they are referring to? First of all, the word end has quite a few meanings, which includes limits or boundaries, finish or close, and destruction or death. However, the end we're dealing with here is referring to the latter definition, which is to come to an end, to cease, to terminate, to close, to conclude. And this end could be the end of the world or end of the earth. Why do I say this? Because the word earth is defined as the planet that we live on, terrestrial globe, according to Webster's new 20th century unabridged dictionary. And it defines the word world as literally meaning the age of man. All right. And so I'm going to skip because, as I said, of time is of the essence, but it goes on. I've been telling you for years that, okay, let me go back a bit because that's important. So when saying the end of the world, you are saying the end of man, because the word world originally meant the existence of man on earth. Yet, when scientists use the term end of the world, they mean the actual destruction of the planet. and they went as far as exploring other planets that can be inhabited by humans, such as Mars and the Moon, which have already shown signs of life existing on them, something that I've been telling you for years. They have set up bases on these planets, and there are pictures, books. Is there a base on Mars? Videos, alternative 3, and the documented evidence that are now being released to the public, which proves this, which is good, because I find that it's easier for you to accept it. So what the public doesn't know is that scientists have been probing Mars since the 1800s and found conditions similar to that of this planet. Okay, so now he's saying that this is going back to the 80s, and he was telling us about life on, and in the Holy Tablets was telling us about life on the moon, and that scientists have already got bases up there, right? Today, Elon Musk is doing what? Trying to go to Mars, right? People say, why is he building tunnels? Because you know he's talking about these tunnels that he's building where his Tesla cars can travel underneath the ground and stuff. Well, when you go to Mars, you can't live on the surface initially. So he's going to dig tunnels and build biospheres or build underground bases, like how they did here in Shambhala and Agatha, where beings that came here that didn't want to live on the surface, they went and built the tunnels and the caverns underground. Then people say, why is he building robots? Well, robots can work to help build the cities on Mars when he gets there. They don't have to worry about the atmosphere. They can work without needing food, don't get tired, none of that, right? They say, why is he so interested in artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence will help to program these robots, to give them that ability to be able to build these cities and to build so it's all not coincidence. And the master was telling us this back then. And when he talks about alternatives in the mission from Earth, I think that's the title, Mission Earth, yeah. He explains about alternatives 1, 2, and 3, where they were basically trying to, I'm going to read them, they're actually in here, but I'm saying, you see how things are lining up now, where he's just using the Earth as practice, yeah, because like I said, they're building these underground, they're using these machines like how they built the Channel Tunnel. If you go and do some research, you'll see, okay. So as the question is, why are they trying to get off the planet? Because of these alternatives, alternative 1, 2, and 3. One was population control, right? Reduce the planet to the point where, you know, you've seen the stone, the Georgia stone. You've heard about people like Bill Gates and the population control. All these things like the wars, the famine, the COVID, all of this stuff. Okay. So that's alternative 1, to get off the planet and go. Means to control the planet by unaliving millions, in fact billions, because the Georgia Stones were talking about reducing the population to 500 million from a planet of 6-7 billion people, all right? But obviously with us it didn't work, because they say no matter what they put us through, we always survive, because mortals die, gods survive, and we keep procreating and multiplying. So then they tried to go alternative 2, to go to the caverns in the world, but they couldn't live there because there were already extraterrestrials and other beings there, and they didn't want them there. Alternative 3 is to get out of there, right? Go to the moon, and so this is what they're doing. But let me read a bit more to emphasize the point of today's class. Okay, I'll go from page 4 of the same scroll. It says, You can be sure that they have already visited and thoroughly dissected that planet, and that they have and are still in the process of moving selected people there. So what these scientists and environmentalists know about the destruction of this planet is not based on religion or a religious standpoint. It has to do with facts. And the fact is that the destruction of this planet is inevitable, and they are on their way out of here. You, on the other hand, are waiting for someone to come and save you. And just might, for someone to come and save you, and it just might be too late. At the rate this planet is going, the planet Earth is falling apart right under your feet. If you listen to the world news report, there is a catastrophe or disaster happening in some country every single day, warning you that a great calamity is about to happen, because the condition of this planet has gotten to the point that even Mother Nature is tired of man. The first signs will be the animals and birds turning on mankind. When you see that, know it is near. Why is Mother Nature tired of man? The truth of the matter is, in order for Mother Earth to accommodate the luxuries of man, the pollutants from cars, planes, jets, factories, etc., all of life's natural substances are being destroyed. Which in one in particular is the ozone layer, the shield that protects Earth from the sun's dangerous ultraviolet rays, is depleting, which in turn throws off natural balance of the universe. And that's just one aspect of its destruction. There's violence, nuclear war, bombs, poverty, chemical waste that are all attributing to its destruction. Look on the news today, what's going on? The wars, Palestine, Ukraine, Russia, Gaza. This type of information is never taught to you by your religious leaders, preachers, imams and rabbis who give you their interpretation of the end of the world and base its cause on the prediction of the scriptures that was inevitable to come, regardless of the part man played by way of his selfishness. All right, the last part I'm going to read, and then I'm going to read one more little piece of what the master is saying and tie it in, and then we'll go into the Q&A. Religion itself has made a major contribution to the destruction of this planet. If you were to scratch all aggressive tribalism or nationalism, you usually find beneath its surface a religious core, some older binding energy or belief or superstition. This paradox of God love as a life force, the deepest well of compassion, is capable of transforming itself into a death force with destructive energies or beliefs of belief. Faith, the sweetest refuge and the consolation, is hardened into a sword, a club, a torch, a gun, or even a bomb. Religious hatreds tend to be merciless, which is now on view among the Hindus and the Muslims of India, among the Islamic fundamentalists of Egypt. It's basically saying how religions, when you start to look at the wars and everything that's going on the planet, a lot of that is caused by religion. Mother Nature will do her part. Your earthquakes, tornadoes, floods, droughts, etc. may be her way of retaliation in order to survive. Look at it this way. You just took everything that Mother Nature provided for everyone on this planet freely, bottled it up and sold it. For one, you took land, chopped down the trees, pulled flowers and plants out of the natural environment, planted fruits and vegetables in climates where they're not naturally grown, and poured chemicals in the ground to speed up their size and growth, then packaged and sold them like it was yours, and you wonder why there are earthquakes. Secondly, you took the fresh, clean air, polluted it with cigarette smoke, toxic fumes from chemicals, and now you package fresh air and sell it, and you wonder why there's blizzards and tornadoes. Third, you took the water and used it as a dumping site for garbage and chemical waste, and now you package clean water and sell it, and you wonder why there are floods and droughts. And when I say you, I don't mean you personally. I'm talking about mortal man, humanity. Another thing I like to bring to mind is, did you ever stop to think that all this mystical talk about the end could be as simple as someone or some beings with no religious concern at all, who were watching the mentality of the inhabitants of this planet, foresaw the destruction that was coming and was trying to warn you? Or it could be as simple as someone or some beings with no concern for you, religious or otherwise, who are aiding in the destruction of this planet, and their only motive may be for their personal gain. All right. So let me just read this last piece. This is the update from quite recent. Okay, I'm going to read from the second paragraph, right? This is the last part of the reading. I wanted to get through this part and then we can go into Q&A. America went broke by the weather attacks and virus and wars of others they paid for. So now they think Thorn is their new savior, their new Jesus. He is, Revelation 13, 1 to 18, and will betray them. The false one pretending to be Christian, and he deceived them. So the master teacher mentioned that the planet is now up for grabs and the aliens are fighting for control of the planet. They're creating all kinds of calamities, fires, storms, earthquakes, etc. He needs to be out of there because he has to be here to help us make the lifts. We missed all the lifts, 2003, 2013, 2023, and we won't make the lift in 2033. He explained that just like the movie Stargate, when they came down, the craft hovered over the pyramid and it was able to enter from the top of the pyramid, so it would have been in 2003. He said that the Black Pyramid on Tamaray was empty and it was supposed to be our lift point. He mentioned that he had planned for us to come together and clean ourselves up. Okay, and it goes on. So as you can see from where I left off from that book, Let's Talk About the End, and he's saying about, as he said here, someone, it could be as simple as someone or some beings with no concern for you, religious or otherwise, who are aiding in the destruction of this planet, and their only motive may be for their personal gain. So when you look at AI and you look at all this stuff I mentioned before that's taking place, that is also alien technology. But when you carry on with this update I was reading, he said there are no more lift dates. 2033, the next vortex date will be too late. On December the 22nd, 2032 is the date the meteor Apophis is coming. They will say it will not hit like they do, yet this one will hit the earth. Okay, now again, that same what he just said there was repeated in an update in March, and I'm only going to read that little piece. It says, the age of Aquarius, the water bearer, pouring the water of life, the end of the last 6,000 years, the lunar cycle, as the moon affects the waters of this planet. Yet this time, destruction will not be by the waters, it will be by fires, by the very hands of the cursed seed of the Adamites themselves from 2000 AD to 2030 AD. And look for 2032 to 2033, a visit from outer space on the 22nd of December. These are their end times in all ways. Leaving on a positive note. Yet not yours, the first seed on this planet's end times. Fear not. Stand back and watch them destroy themselves. All of them, no matter what name they be called, by their DNA, it says all Euros are Euros. No matter where they dwell or claim, no matter what they say or believe, DNA doesn't lie. Their telomeres have been programmed from the sixth day, sixth month, 3,761 BC to only last 6,000 years. And that ending started on the ninth day of the ninth month, 1999 AD. No one or nothing can change their fate. By their time, surely the Adamites are at a loss for all their wickedness and evils to the other three races. Okay, so I'm going to yield there and just tie it a little bit in, and then we open up for Q&A. So when we're saying unity or menu, I started off with explaining in the Pa'alahaj, the language of time, Shalel Wakut, that we have to get our act together. We have to learn our language. We have to start to do for self, get our own lands, and we will be protected if we do what we're supposed to do. We are protected, but you're only protected if you're living in the image and likeness of Parnatharu, not when you're living in the image and likeness of the beast and allowing six ether forces to rule your life and your whole world. And so we're here to provide solutions by way of what we have to do, because it's not a given. It's really based on what we do. And we create our reality. And collectively, our collective mind can do anything we put our minds to. You know, so like I said, if you don't want to be on the menu, it's about being unified. And the unity comes with work. Everything you see us do, everything involves work. But the reality is a lot of people are not activating their God gene, their actual being, to be productive and to be able to come together and unify so that we can build, because it is actually quite simple. But if you're not around the right people, the right energy, and doing the right things, then it's easy for you to be completely overwhelmed and you're easy pickings on your own. And that's why every single one of our leaders has always said there's strength in numbers. You know, there's power in our unity. Put away all the divisions of the different religious denominations and I think this, I think that. We have been fortunate enough through our praying, our crying, our call for help. One has been sent for us to help us. So we cannot allow this opportunity, because it's the last one. We won't have any others after this. Don't believe me. Let me read one last little piece. There's the book called The Nine. There were 9, right? There we go. The 9. If you read, there's actually a chapter to tie into what I just said about the meteorite coming. It's on page 103 of the book called The 9. It's actually called the meteorite. It says, Nuwapians, know that the day shall soon arrive when the big meteorite shall strike this planet. All will be shocked. Fear of the end of the world. That is not the end of the whole world. Much destruction, much deaths and injuries. A day and days to follow, because of it, people who were separated will join as one. The fears will have powers stronger than separations and racism. Apophis, Abaddon, Apollyon, destruction will change the minds and the hearts of the people. Ties into Revelation 9, verse 1 to 21. So you see how I've tied it in from let's talk about the end, he was talking about it then, to what's going on the planet today with all the activities going on, to the updates, to the scroll, the 9, all telling us about the destruction that is imminent. But where are you going to be? Where will you be? And how will you be saved and how will you survive this? You just heard it. It's going to be much destruction. So we got to really stop wasting time and energy and start to do the things that we need to do. And it's as simple as we say, we've got communities all around the world taught by the only person who knows the way. Not just by lip service, but actual proof of what he's done. And it's as simple as, imagine if you have even just 100 people in each community working together. It's easy. And that's what he set up for us. So, you know, we're about building, we're about people who are really about to build for the future and for the children, for our elders. And there's already a process. Nothing that the master does is just frivolously. There's a reason for everything. And so you got to work out where you stand in all of this. And why you're here is to learn, activate, and to join and come together so we can do what we're doing. We're doing it anyway, but many hands make light work, as they say. So with that, I yield. It's just 8:15. We've still got till 9:30 for any questions that anyone has about anything I covered or any questions in general that you may have that you would like answered. Any questions, please? Please use the mic so that we can get clear recording.
What did Yanun do to break the seventh seal? Was it a physical thing or like on a spiritual plane type of thing?
Okay. Just for those listening, the question is, what did Yanun do to break the seventh seal? I think you're getting that from the Muslims, right?
No.
Okay, we're just a reference where you got that from.
I'm not religious. From the scroll, man from Planet Risk.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't fully understand it.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the things you learn is that the number 7 in the religious world is something that, well, there are a number of numbers, but in the Bible, the number 7 is regarded to be some kind of magical number, like the 7 days of creation, the 7 candlesticks of the menorah, the 7 churches, you know, you can go on, right? And even when you look at, like, when people talk about the chakras, they talk about 7 chakras, right? Everything ties around the number 7. And the 7th seal is mentioned in the Bible when it talks about Daniel being told, right, he was getting visions and he was told to put the book away and to seal it up because it was not time yet for when that will be revealed. And so the master teacher came, and when you look at the 7 major scriptures as well, like, so the person that was assigned or appointed to come and be able to, because that's what the what's the word they call it? The prophecy says that there will come a time when the 7th seal will be broken by a being who will be able to unleash truth to the world. And that was in 1970 when a master teacher came, and they were assigned to tell you who that would be in terms of their ability to break down all the 7 scriptures, answer all the questions that anybody has. And that's what the master did from the time he opened the knowledge to the world officially in 1970. Even the date was aligned because the 1970 denotes the first half hour, because again, it talks about within that hour, right? It's going to be the first half hour and then the second half hour before the earth is destroyed. And that first half hour is from 1970 to the year 2000. So he had that half an hour where he started to teach us this information, but at the time, most people still had a religious mind, because every time he would stand up to teach, people would ask questions about the scriptures, about religion, about the Abrahamic religion. So he spent half an hour, i.e. 30 years, from 1970 to the year 2000, answering all the questions and covering every aspect of religion, taking us through the various schools. And then in the year 2000, when their 6,000 years were up, as in they were given 6,000 years to rule and have dominion over this planet as a way to test them to see if they could be reformed. That's the Adamites, right? So they watched for that 6,000 years and realized that all they've done is cause destruction and all the stuff I just read, the earthquakes, the famine, the wars, etc. So they were judged, and their time, that they wouldn't get any more extension after the year 2000. Ironically, by the year 2000, when the second half hour started, which is from the year 2000 to 2030, which is the period we're in now. Why now he's telling us about what's going to happen in 2030, 32, etc. to the year 2030. He was no longer teaching religion. He was like, now I'm going to give you what I came to give you, because what he came to give us was this higher knowledge, higher information of who we are, about Wu-Sabat, Wu-Nuwap, about transforming us back to who we're supposed to be. And incidentally, 2000, 2001, you know, we were doing all the rituals on our land to realign ourselves with our ancestors by doing the Mugaraj. And that was transforming those beings at the time who were ready to be basically gods, and he was going to start touching people and doing certain things, and he did to some people. But 2002, they kidnapped him when they started to see that it wasn't about religion, because anybody that comes along, any of our leaders that have come along and tried to unite and bring us together, most of them, it didn't work out because they were using religion as a foundation. So when he was taking us through the schools of religion, they saw him like, oh, he's just crazy. Like, no one's going to follow that, because they know what religion does. Religion causes division. So when we were going through the school of Islam, the school of Christianity, the various schools, he was smart enough to still put Wu-Sabat or Wu-Nuwap in there. So he was still talking about linking it to ancient Egypt. So when you look at our symbols, he always had the Ankh there, which tied us to Egypt. So even though we were known like the Nubian Islamic Hebrews, the Nubian part was always tying us back to Egypt. So the key was in the after 2000, on our land, he erected the obelisk. What it's really called a ben, but you know the obelisk is like the column, like you see in Washington. That actually has a capstone on the top of it. And the capstone represents that this is a capital city, where we had our own land, where we were able to be autonomous and live for and do everything by and for each other. That's when it got dangerous, because they now realized that it wasn't about religion, because you could be a Nuwapian and belong to any religion. And on our land, when we used to have saviors there, anyone can come. You see, we didn't have a gate, right? But they tried to act like it was a gated community, and it was all about, you know, they tried to tie us to like Heaven's Gate, David Koresh, and all of these religious groups that got together and committed suicide. Or, you know what I mean, they did something crazy. So when they realized he was the only being that knew the information to regain our land, because that place was where our ancestors originally were. We built like rock eagle mounds. There was a certain like landmark from our ancestors who were the indigenous people on the land. So they realized that us uniting and coming together and being able to have our own land, when these times were coming, you would be able to be safe, because, you know, when you're a sovereign nation, you don't have to do or like fall into the or subscribe to what's going on in their world that's falling. So yeah, you asked a good question. So from 1970, he opened up and started pouring out the truth and information to the world. And in their religious books, they tell you that when the truth comes, all false things will perish. And that's what's happening now, that with the truth, people are leaving churches, they're leaving the mosque. You know, you have to be really under the spell hard to not wake up and see what's happening around the world now that things are being exposed with all the discoveries and everything. So, yeah, so when you say why did Michael, because in the Quran, that's what they talk about. They say that Michael spent so much time beyond the seventh veil. So when that whole thing with the bliss, for those who know the Quran, it was basically saying that Michael was being groomed, the chosen one, and given that information, and being selected and chosen and being prepared by the forces of nature to come and do this work. And so every culture, that same being that people are calling Michael, even if you read the book of Revelations, it tells you that it says God will send his angel. The word angel, depending on what language you're translating it from, in the Greek is angelos, but in the Hebrew or in the Greek, it'll be like my angel, or Malachi, or Mikael in the Arabic, my angel. And that angel is the angel of justice that is also spoken of in the last book of the Old Testament, which is the book of Malachi, which he wrote, you see. But Malachi, Michael, Mikael, Murdoch, if you go into the Sumerians and go all the way back to ancient Egypt, is the being known as Tahuti, who the Greeks, well, everyone went to Egypt to be taught. That's why it doesn't even make sense when you read in the Bible and like everyone's going to Egypt. Joseph went to Egypt and his whole family. Moses was in Egypt. Abraham went to Egypt. Even Jesus, when Herod was killing the firstborn children, male children, they took him and ran to Egypt. See, so everyone was going to Egypt, and the Greeks, the highest of their intellect, like they go to Egypt. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, name them all. And they got the information sitting at the feet of our ancestors being taught, and they took that knowledge, came back to their countries and pretended it was theirs, and then transposed that being Tahuti into the being they refer to as Hermes, Trismegistus, or Thoth, as they call him. So that being is the incarnation of Barnabas, or the reincarnation of that being is in the personage as Barnabas Yanun. But going beyond the planet, you're going to risk. These is our ancestors, the Anatharu, and he's one of those elders that they talk about, and he's a deity that has incarnated here in the flesh to do this work and to teach us and prepare us and raise those of us who listen and are ready to transform. Does that answer the question? Cool. All right. Any other questions? Anyone? Online? Clubhouse? All right, let me have a look at the chat just in case there were some questions.
No, there's no questions in Clubhouse at the moment.
Tau. All right, let's have a look at the Zoom. All right, you know, we're not preachers. If you don't have questions, we'll just close class and have an early night. Oh, there's a few in the chat. All right, let's have a look. God spells backward is dog. What does that mean? Excellent. Again, it shows you the distortion of how they lie to you, because when you're saying, because they play with this capital G, small g, big G, but in the language, the word God is not God, it's Elohim in the Hebrew, or whichever language you translate to, you can find out that it's a different word. And when they tell you that the devil said he will make evil fair seeming, what that literally means is that he turns everything back to front. So he will tell you something that's good for you, but it's really bad for you. And you can do the test and just check it out. And so what he's telling you is that the dog is man's best friend. As simple as it sounds, right? The who loves the dog more than anybody else? They literally love dogs more than they love some of us. They let the dog lick them in the mouth, sleep in the bed, eat steaks, eat from their plates, and they call the dog man's best friend. We didn't used to do that. Even if we had dogs, we had dogs outside. You know, they were like for protection. And that dog really ties into the jackal. The jackal being Anubis in ancient Egypt, right? Who was responsible for funerary rites to protect the being that was transitioning from being attacked by six ether forces, or, you know, beings that were gonna dig the body up and eat it. They were doing that through.
Some people are actually dressing them up as well.
Yeah. They dress them up in fur coats and everything. And there'll be people starving. People leave their whole inheritance as on their will to their dog. But there are people that could do with that, you know. So it's a reality, but it's also a genetic thing because the Adamites were mixed with dogs. You know, they tell you that in their history. If you go and look at like what they call Greek mythology, they will tell you about Romulus and Remus, she-wolves that nursed them. And it's no coincidence because now with the whole the genome project, where they basically deciphered the composition of every race on the planet, they found Homo canine in their DNA, Homo simian. That means they're mixed with animals. And syphilis and gonorrhea and all these diseases come from mixing with animals. Because when they were in the caves, that's what happened. They allowed the dog to lick their sores of the leprosy and they were mating with them. And to this day, that still happens. And when you kiss the dog in the mouth, you exchange saliva and DNA, and it becomes a part of you. This is not racism, this is facts. Like, they scientists are saying this. So, yeah, so what it is technology is about, you know, telling you you're worshipping something you think is God, but you're really worshipping the dog. And the dog star relates to Satan. And when you start to look at Satan and you look at the planet Saturn, you start to tie in all the dots. You see that, you know, it is a trick on words that have you under a spell because you're reading something, you think it means one thing, but it means something else. Like the word Jesus, which people will think they're calling on a person, and that person never existed. But there is an entity that you're calling on when you're saying those tones and the vibration for that. You're feeding that energy to that being. And until you meet that being, which is really, they tell you in the books that you know, it's Lucifer, the great morning star, you know. And even phonetically, you spell the word Jesus backwards, it says really sausage. What's sausage? Pork. Ties in with the most filthy animal that you're not supposed to eat. But yet, everyone eats pork. Whether you want to call it, people think, they will say, I've known people to say, I don't eat pork, but I actually eat a bit of bacon. I'm like, but do you know what the pig is made from? A cat, a rat, and a dog. That was what was put together, our scientists, to create in that day and time what you would call a Hoover today, because they were so filthy that Abraham went to clean out the Caucasus Mountains. And Zosa, he went to Egypt to get the formula to create the hog, which is what the pig comes from. And that's why a pig can eat anything and do it, like it lives in dirt. So there are, you know, jewels hidden within what they teach you, but unless you know, that's why the master's here, to break things down for us so we can see clearly with a clear vision. All right, that's from Jackie. And again, Jackie, thank you so much for your contribution to the 100 Project and others as well. The females, the women are, you know, it's their time, and now they're really helping and stepping up, because the female, as the feminine, they know that there have to be something set up for the children. Mother Nature, the mothers, they want us to make sure that we are their children. So we have to, you know, bring the females or the feminine together, the sacred feminine, to be honest, because you got a lot of females now that are not even aware of their divinity. They're just completely under the programming of six ether. They don't know their divine feminine nature, you see, and this is what Wu-Sabat is here to do. But a lot of the females they're stepping up, So I wanted to just thank the people that are helping with, because the 100 project, to touch on it, is our way of coming together with people that are serious to work together and build. And we have two priorities right now. The first one is freeing the master teacher. That has been ongoing and will never stop until we free him. And that is still something that everyone should be having a personal concern about, and doing whatever you can to help. But at the same time, we have to prepare and build to have ourselves away from this destruction. That's why if you read Revelations 18, it tells you, come out of her so that you will not be partakers of the iniquities. It tells you, come out of her, my people. So if we don't do what we're supposed to do, come together in unity, that's why I keep saying the title of the class, unity or menu. It's up to you. The word men, you can see the way I spelled it, men, you can be on the menu. And not just physically, even though it's meant that way literally, but you're constantly being sucked, your energy is being sucked, whether it's from your boss or work, negative energies around you, negative people around you, negative mindset, everything that is pulling and drawing your energy away from you to deplete you and to stop you from elevating, you've got to be mindful of. All right, next question on the chat. What is the effect of the elites planning to leave the planet due to their belief that a destruction of the planet is coming? Well, the way they do it is, so you have to understand, I kind of touched on it at the beginning when I talked about the supreme beings and the sub-supreme beings, where we originate from. These beings, disagreeable beings, they go to different planets and basically destroy. Like, they go to a planet, like once they were, and when I say these beings, I'm talking about the draconians, the dragon beings. When you say Dracula, you're talking about draconian. These are beings that they need to subsist of other beings' energy, their blood, etc. So when you look at Dracula, look at the story around Dracula. Dracula is a being that can't take the sun, so he doesn't come out in the day. He has to come out when the sun goes down. He has to bite someone to suck their blood, to live off, and when he bites that person then also becomes a vampire. They go out and start biting other people. And when you look at that, to the beings that are hemophiliacs, they were not able to have clotting in their blood, the hemoglobin, that they were basically, before they mixed with us, they would get a cut and bleed to death, because they didn't have the soul and they didn't have certain properties in their bodies. So what they had to do, the whole slave so-called trade was about the blood. And when you look at the vampirism that's still going on till today, why you have to give blood? Because when you go to the hospitals, etc., where people are being hospitable to you, because it's not about curing you, it's about controlling the symptoms, and they take blood, they get jars, vases this big, and they take about 3 of them. Anyone who's ever given, gone for a blood test will know. But you only need a drop of blood to put it on the microscope to see what's in it. So why do you need 3 big vases? Ask them when you go for blood tests. But they've got banks, blood banks. Till this day, people that need to subsist off. I'm saying that to say, to tie back to the question, these draconians, these beings that are being passed off in the Bible and these religious books as angels, are these Anakim, or the draconian of them, the ones that like to eat flesh and drink blood. That's why the whole book of Leviticus is a cookbook. It's telling you about sprinkling blood on the altar, sacrifice this to appease these gods. Until this day, you go to the movie industry and Hollywood and all of these kind of things. That's what's going on. So to answer your question, Jackie, when they get defeated from one planet, they will go somewhere else and colonize, as they do on the planet, go to different places, colonize, and then what happened is that in the book of Revelations, it tells you this, where it says, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels. When you're saying dragon, you're going Draco, you're dealing with those draconian beings. So they've come here and have taken over this planet. And Michael has come to help defeat them. And if they're not defeated, they will go to another planet and do the same thing. That's their nature, because you have opposite natures. One is a destructive one, and one is one that wants to live in peace, harmony with nature, and that's who we are as animists. So, again, that's another good question, Jackie. So, they want to leave the planet because if they can't, they know the destruction of this planet, or their destruction is imminent, because it was programmed in their genes. At the end of their telomeres, the telomeres at the end of their chromosomes were basically programmed to fade out after 6,000 years, so that they will be wiped out. And that's what's happening right now as we speak. They're doing it themselves. And when I read again where it says the planet will no longer be destroyed by water like in the floods. Previously, it's by fire. You look around now, fires are burning everywhere. It's been happening from last year. LA was burnt. You go to Europe right now, Europe's on fire right now. And that sun, which is spoken of in Malachi chapter 4, is the sun of righteousness, coming with healing in his wings. It literally says S-U-N. So they tell you now we're living in the age of Aquarius, the sun cycle, where the sun's getting closer, or the planet's getting closer to the sun. And with that, fires are happening all over because, yeah, that fire is going to burn anyone who can't stay on the surface of the planet. And to stay on the surface of the planet, you need to have melanin. Melanin is your protection. And there's different types of melanin. But a lot of us are toxic because we're not doing what we're supposed to do. We're not eating right. We're not putting the right spiritual work in. We're just literally living in the image of the beast, doing what they do. But we're definitely different natures. And so, yeah, so that's what's happening, why they're trying to get off the planet, because remember I mentioned alternative one was population control. That didn't work. They went to alternative two, which was to go and live in the center, the caverns, because if a nuclear weapon or nuclear bomb is dropped, like it happened before in Nagasaki and Hiroshima during the First World War, Second World War, you can't live on the planet. So people have to go inside or build bunkers because the radiation from those bombs will kill you. Or, it's going to be very harmful. Till today, people from Japan are still affected by those bombs. So they tried to go to the caverns and build underground bunkers to escape. But the Master has taught through the scrolls that this time round there's no saving. The water that will find them underground and drown them wherever they go. So they have to go to alternative. And of course, the beings that were living in the caverns, they didn't want them either. So alternative 3 is the only one left. Get off the planet. Elon's busy launching rockets like crazy. But as you see, there's also protection. There are crafts that have been waiting on above the planet. Some crafts, remember, for every agreeable thing, there's an equal disagreeable thing. That's how they distort everything and confuse people. So you got crafts that are here waiting to pick up people that make it, who get the opportunity to be to receive like their barothry gland back and to be saved. Then you've got crafts that are there abducting and taking people for food. Watch the movie Colony and certain other movies, they show you. So when people say, what happened before? Because they give it to you in a religious setting, you don't really see it. But when the Noah flood was happening, it was the same type of thing where it was time, again, for the planet to be wiped and start all over again. But the way they tell you, they just say, oh, Noah was building an ark in the desert and he went around the world, which doesn't make sense, to get every two of every animal to put in this boat, and then the flood came, and only the people in the boat didn't die. But the craft, it was a craft. And it wasn't two of every animals. It was certain people and certain DNAs that were taken. This is what happens when the world is coming to that type of destruction. It's about selecting those beings that have elevated themselves. Even when they're taking people to Mars, they call them the brain team. Watch the Netflix series called Salvation, right? Salvation, it tells you how they do this, where they will look on the planet. If you're no use to anyone, you're not going to be selected. So they will look at, okay, the highest, like scientists, people who are going to have a contribution. If you're a useless eater, meaning you have no value, no contributions to society, then you're just going to be food. So I'm saying that to say that this has happened many times, and a meteorite hitting the planet, one hit 17,250,000 years ago, and dinosaurs were destroyed and they were extinct. Now people just tell you, oh, there was once a time there were dinosaurs here. You had another one, 250,000 years ago. Meteorites hit this planet all the time. It's just now they actually have scientists, they have, I can't remember the name of the program, but they study they study extraterrestrials and study things that are coming onto the planet. And if the meteorites are small, they won't cause much of a damage. But if you're looking at the one we're talking about hitting the planet, the master said they will tell you it's not going to hit, but this time it will. And when the master says something, we know anyway, for all the years we've been walking with him, he's never wrong. And so even we were saying, you can go back and watch some of the videos I did, we were telling you about Gaza was about taking the land. And today on the news, that's what they're talking about. So he tells us many things that, books like the Luciferian conspiracy. This is a conspiracy that has been in the working and planned for years. These books like Leviathan, the Beast, 666, he put these out years ago. And the information just keeps going. And so we have a part to that called I Was There, which is here. This one, part 1 and 2. It explains the many times this has happened and why this time it's about selecting those who will replace. Meaning that if you're just about partying, drinking, dancing and twerking and all the low vibrational stuff that our people seem to be so preoccupied with and not, feeding your spiritual being, your mind, your brain and studying and getting yourself together, then you're seasoning yourself to be food for the gods. All right, so I got one more question in the chat. Well, quite a few, but if anyone has a question, you can interrupt and interject. I'm just trying to get through the ones in the Zoom chat. So that was the one about the destruction. Regarding the Apophis, the time it will hit, will it also be the same time the chosen ones will be picked by the crafts? Are they specific? Yeah, those types of questions, people like to, like I said, they want to always talk about the end and not focusing on the now. So concern yourself, Tahuti, who's asking the question, with being around where you need to be, because the master teacher knows the way and he's the one that will tell you that information. And you can't give pearls to swines, as they say, meaning that only those that are worthy and put in the work and can be trusted will be entrusted with certain information. So everybody would like to be saved, everybody would like to be the chosen one, everybody would like that, but it's about what are you doing to make sure you're a part of that. You see what I mean? It's not like religion where they dip you in water and say, that's it, you're saved. You don't have to do anything, you can party, go smoking, drinking, do what you like, and someone else is gonna come and save you and take all your sins away. Now, Wu-Sabat is real, you have to put in the work. And but the master teacher does give us information, and you have to be within, as they put it, you have to be counted amongst those to be chosen. When you say, well, ones will be picked by the cross. Yeah, between now and 2030, we're going to see a lot of things. And that's why we have to be prepared. We have to be focusing on doing what we need to do. Yeah, but those who are picked up by the cross will know the way. There are people that have been chosen, and some of these people have the holes in the ears and they hear the ringing, and they will hear or be shown visions and dreams to know what to do, and they will guide others. So that's already been spoken about in The Man from Planet Risk. But not everyone that has a ringing ear is a chosen one in that regard, because some people just have bad headaches because they got bad health, or they listen to music in their headphones, or they use all these Bluetooth devices that are damaging, or they've damaged their magnetic particles at the base of their brain. So not everyone that has a ringing in their ear is one of those people, but there are those. Like I said, there's always the agreeable and there's the disagreeable. Crafts waiting to help pick you up, crafts waiting to take you away. People talk about they want to visit extraterrestrials. Some extraterrestrials are just going to be there to, what's the word I'm looking for? Fool you to follow them and then lead you to your demise. And some people will see, these beings that they appear to them in their dreams and so forth. And when you're crossing over, if you don't know what you're doing, then a being's going to appear to you and look like Jesus. Your ancestors are going to be over there, and the being over there with the white light around him, if you're in a religious mindset and you think, oh, Jesus, you're going to go that way. And then you're going to go and get, eaten or whatever. But it's important to know, by way of Wu-Sabat, study the scrolls, be around the family. All right, let me see. There's another question. I hope I'm not scaring you guys. Don't be scared. Right? We just got to do what we have to do and we'll be protected. All right. Who are the Adamites among the white race? Not all of them are Adamites. Correct. That's why I try as much as possible to use the word Adamites, because you can't put everyone under the same boat or bracket. Generalization sometimes is very easy to do. And so when you read the 33 Commandments by the Master Teacher, Parnabab Yanun, the 33 Commandments of the Sabians, right? It says on, I'll read the first part before I get to that. Actually, this is such an interesting scroll, because it shows you the symbol of the sanctuary, the Ankh of life. Then it shows you the 33 commandments, and it breaks it down into past, then, present, now, future, then. So you got the then and the then, and we're in the future and the present. And we have to focus on the present and not the thens of the past and the future. Right, so it says, I, as a deity in flesh, incarnate from time to time as the reformer to renew our story every 24,000 years. I come from planet Mazak, Risk, in Maalan, Ilion. You, Munwapu of Musbatu, are to thank the Pa Muntharu for their protections, and for Pa Taruk, be Pa Tarak, sent as a guide on how to live. I tell you this out of Ashok, divine love, of beloved jewels of my eyes. You now have the Sawab, truth, and it will free your mind, body and soul if you accept it. Love each other, each one teach one. Pa Muntar, the warner. Live for, of, and by each other. Truth is truth. We say it all the time, but we have to do it. All right, this is the bit I want to read to answer that question. On the Adamites, I, Pa Munbab Yanun, do not want you to think that the use of Adamite means all and every so-called white person. It does not mean that. There was many Morapu Europeans on planet Earth long before the making, grafting, breeding of the hybrid seed of Muadamu, Adamites. The first man, Adam, was born 6th month, Tammuz, 6th day of that month, the year 3761 BC, 6,000 years back from 2000 AD. And he says, no one wins the race in racism. Because sometimes, as a Nagaranadu or a Negroid, of course, this is our information, and we focus so much on ourselves that sometimes it can come across to those that are not aware that this is not about racism. And because there's been so much mixture amongst people in general, just because you're in the same skin suit or colors as me doesn't mean that you are of me, because this is how we get infiltrated and betrayed. And there are people that may be melanated, but their mind is wrong, or they're not. We refer to people like Uncle Tom's Coconuts, etc., because they may look like you on the outside, but on the inside they're not. I'm saying that to say that we have books called Are They Black Devils, right? And the master teacher says that's been his greatest hindrance, trying to reach us. Then you look at other people like, you know, less melanated beings, because everybody has melanin, but we are not to be, we're not to be judgmental. That's the alarm I normally have for chanting at 9. But we're not to be judgmental, and you can't really for sure know who's who on the planet. So rather than focus on the racism thing, focus on doing what's right, because at the end of the day, it's about your actions and your intentions and your energy and what you're doing, and not really looking at other people and saying, he's going to make it, or she's not going to make it, or she's this or that. So, but of course, we know that Adamites have infiltrated and they're everywhere. So you judge them by their actions and what they do, and you know their intentions. So when you say who are the Adamites among the white race, not all of them are Adamites. That is true, but at the same time, because you don't know, I think Cassius Clay, for those who know him as Muhammad Ali, did an interview where he expressed it very well. He said there are 10,000, say, Caucasians, and he said out of those there might be 1,000 that mean well, that they're not going to harm me. But he said, because I don't know, I'd rather not take the chance. Like if there are 10 lions coming to bite you or eat you, but there are 2 or 3 that are not, and you don't know who's who, then the best thing is to what? Stay away. Let them prove themselves by way of their actions. So yeah, that's the answer to that question, because even when you look amongst them, they're called the 6 kings. When you say Vikings, you're saying it's VI, 6 in Roman numeral, and kings, 6 kings. And those 6 kings are like, you know, your different species of the Adamites, you know. So you got the red hair with the green eyes, you got the blonde hair, blue eyes, and you got the ones that have been mixed. So a lot of them are mixed with us, and some of them can mix with a Nagaru, as in the female, and gain the soul from the man and can make it. So, which brings me back to the question of the 7 seals you asked, which I didn't finish, which I was going to say that everyone talks about the 7, but we are 9. So we have 2 more in terms of when you deal with the chakras to the 9 one, because we got 2 that are above our head, are outside the body, that they don't know about. But because the master had took us through the 7 seals, now he's gone further, going into our information. So when you look at the number 9, the number 9 is like, you say the highest number, because you go from, people say 1 to 9 and forget the 0, but let's say you go from 1 to 9, that's the beginning and that's the highest, which gives you 19, right? The number 19, 1 and 9, which is where when you start to read the Quran, they were telling you that each scripture has a seal over it. Like the 7 is the one for the religious Christian books. The 19 is the one for the Quran. And then the 19th elder is the master teacher, or the 19th elder known as Yanun. And 1 to 9 represents cycles, because when you climb, and I mentioned a bit earlier on about the 9 gates, you go through these gates to get to 9. But when you get to 9, it's not the end, you start again. See, so you keep going 1 to 9, 1 to 9, 1 to 9, 1 to 9, but as you're going, you're going to end up with 9 to the 9th power of 9, which is 9 ether, or the highest. So he has and holds the keys to all the gates, all the realms, all the way to the 9. And we are 9 ether beings, and we're about to basically be raised in degrees to master the physical world, which is the seen world, which is represented by a circle of 360 degrees. And then you have to master the spiritual world, which is another circle of 360, giving you, when you add them up, 360 plus 360 gives you 720. But with the female, because she's an XX, I don't have a pen, you have to visualize this. Because she's an XX, she has, I'm talking about her chromosomes, right? So you have, if you look at X, or if you drew it like a cross, each has a 90 degree angle, right? So it gives you 360, which is dealing with the woman as a circle. But when you look at the man, he has an X and a Y. So he's missing one stem of the X, giving him 630. I hope you guys are following me. So you got the 90 degrees of the one X and the 9, and then the others, which is missing one, so you get 630. So, but even if you add both of those, the 720 still gives you 9. 7 plus 2 plus 0, 9. The 630 still gives you 9, because the 6 plus the 3 gives you 9. So male and female have to come together as one and read the sacred, the gospel of the sacred feminine, the Lotus of Life by Partner Babyanun, that teaches you about the left and the right brain. We have to come together now to basically be of our full power, okay? Who were originally the 24 elders? That's in the Holy Tablets. There are many 24 elders, but the ones you're talking about, that's religion. That's in the book of Revelations, and it's in the Holy Tablets. I'm not going to go through all of them today, but all of them, in fact, let me see if I can quickly show you. But yeah, these are the beings that they talk about in the religious books, but they don't know their real names and their real details of who they are, where they come from. But Yanun is one of them as the 19th. And then the 24th is the one that sits in that seat to bring about the new cycle of 24,000 years we're referring to as the sun cycle. Who asked that? Selassie I. Okay. So yeah, but when you go into these elders, then you kind of start to find out, like, for example, you know, they have like names like Raphael, Daniel, no, not Daniel. Oh, here you go. Right, I've just found it. In the Holy Tablets, if you go to, Akawag, can you mute your mic, please? Okay, I'll mute him. Yeah, so if you look, I don't know if you can see that, but on the Holy Tablets, you can see them, right? So you got like Anathiel, Akatriel, it goes on, it gives you all of their names. Uhuel, Metatron, etc. All right? Okay, let's go to Tony. Oh, that was Linky, sorry. Yeah, Linky, that was for you. Tony, the biting, flesh eating is what the Netflix series called Walking Dead is all about. Yeah, because they make all these series, all these movies to tell you what's really going on. But they make evil fair seeming, so you just think it's entertainment. But when you look deeper, you'll find out that when you're saying Walking Dead, a lot of people are walking dead right now, because they may seem like they're animated and walking, but they have no soul, or they haven't activated their divine being. So they're just, it tells you in their books as well that the Walking Dead are people that, not only the ones that will come out of the graves and all of that, Michael Jackson showed you that in the Thriller. And that's deep because when you study that, it also ties all in with, Quincy Jones and the Pied Piper, and you look in the Holy Tablets and look at Tubal Cain, not Tubal Cain, Tubal something. He looks exactly like Quincy Jones. Why am I saying that? Because sometimes I know time is coming to the end, but music is one of those things that is used to attract young people, and they sell you this dream of becoming a star. And Michael Jackson and people like that were influencers and have people basically idol worshipping, and IDLE, not IDOL. They idolized him, and he led them astray, and to the point where, even today, like you go on any of the social media platforms right now, you see our people spend most of their time music, just dancing, twerking, and doing all foolishness, when there's seriousness going on the planet right now that they should be really focused on if they were taking it seriously and paying attention. And the Pied Piper is someone that used music to lead people astray. So that's why I tied it in like that. But you can read that story because it's all to do with a star. Being a star is an illusion, because stars burn out, and then they give you a particular type of star. They give you an interlocking 6-pointed star or 5-pointed star, which is really dealing with that light or fire of Lucifer. But that's, we're going to have to do another class for that one. Right, the last two questions. Can you, Extraterrestrials 2014 shows people being taken for food. Yep. Can you provide more details regarding the original so-called American Indian being black? You know what? Funny you should ask that. I just did a video yesterday that's coming out, talking to a brother, where we go into that in great detail. There's no such thing as an American Indian so there's Native Americans, which they call American Indians. But when you do the research, the original inhabitants of the Americas were Africans. And if you read the Proverbs of Yanun, it actually goes into how people came. Oh, here, I've got it right here. This goes into the very first few pages. Again, I'm conscious of time, so it goes into telling you about how people came on the planet. Because when you're looking at Pangea or Pangea, some people say, the planet was all one landmass. And the bit where you're calling the Antarctica today, because there's a lot of information going on about the Antarctica, is the landing site where, what they call the Egg Island, where the original beings came here. And then from the Indian Ocean, so a lot of things like, they talk about Christopher Columbus and these people going the wrong direction and thinking they were going to, India or whatever, because from the Indian Ocean is where people kind of like spread. The original ones being our people known as the newborns, where you get the word Nubians from.
Sorry, could I ask a question?
Sure, but look, can I?
Where does the Arawaks and the Caribs then come
Right,
then?
that's what I was trying to go to. So you got the original people that were Africans from what you call, like before the continental drift, right? They literally walked over there, right? From these newborns that I just mentioned. And they set up there and they became known as the Olmecs, yeah? So you see these big head statues of Olmecs that have big lips, big noses, they look African. They were settling in what you're calling the Americas, but the word America actually comes from two words, the Incas and the Emirs. The Emirs and the Incas, that's where you get the two word becomes America, right? But when those Olmecs were there, you had the Chinese that came over right, known as the Husheng dynasty. Yeah, they came over and they mixed with those Olmecs to produce what people are calling native, or they're calling American Indians. And that's where you get those tribes from. So you had the different tribes that came out of that, like you're saying the Arawak, but that's dealing with the mixture, because I could even go further. Those original people that we're calling the newborns became what we know as the Sans people today. But those beings are from West Africa, like Ghana, but when you go into looking at Ghana, it goes all the way back to what they call Egypt, but ancient Egypt, you see, from the Pataites. It's a big story. We don't really have time to go into that for today. But yeah, so those, what you're calling, if you look at them, they look just like Chinese. They look like Indians. Like they're a mixture. That's why their hair is hollow. They don't have, well, we call it hair, but they don't really have hair. We're the only people on the planet with hair. So those natives, what was the question again? So-called American Indian being black. So they are black in the sense of they were mixed, but then you had the settlers that came over, the Europeans. Like, if you really study the states of America, you start to see like names like they have the word new in front of it, because this is those new settlers that came in, and like New York, like you have Virginia. Every name you can think of, you will see how it ties into these European settlers, because they came there and actually stole the land. And it ties to what I was saying before, where our land on Tamaray with the mound builders ties into that whole land that we owned. And it goes deep, because when we did research and found out that that land belonged to us, they knew when I say they, I'm talking about the people that stole the land, and it was a conspiracy that was hidden. They knew that if you took back that land, then you pretty much be able to get the rest of the land, which was settled and divided amongst themselves. A bit like what they did with Africa, where, you know, with the, what they call it, the, what's that convention that they cut up Africa? The Berlin Conference, thank you. It's the same sort of thing, where they basically divided the land amongst themselves, took it over, pretended it's theirs. If you listen to a recording on the web by the master teacher, I think is leave my stuff alone. Yeah, look out for that. Leave my stuff alone, and listen to that. It will go into great detail about the whole kind of like invasion of our land, to the point where today, even Egypt's the same. Now you go to Egypt, they've pushed away the indigenous black people, and you've got the desert Arabs now, who came by way of a mixture of Abraham and Hagar to produce Ishmael, who were the ones that basically now have taken over Egypt, and they're going like Egypt belongs to them. And the people like the dark skin, like that, they get pushed into Aswan and, you know, different places like that. So this has happened all over the planet. Wherever you go, the indigenous people being pushed away. How much time we got? 21, 12. Okay, let me see, last two questions. If you want to learn more about that question you're asking, there's a book called Let's Set the Record Straight upstairs that goes into a lot of detail about that, yeah? Let's see what else we got. So the Draconians are using their children to build crafts for them to leave this planet. They've already got crafts. They can't build, okay. The whole thing about crafts as well, the crafts that you see that are aerodynamics are made here, they're built here. So even Hitler had crafts during the war. That's how he was in the Antarctica, tying back to this, because he met, there are different species of extraterrestrials that, going back to what I'm saying here, that settled in the Antarctica. And So Hitler met with what they call the Ashtar Command, right? Because they were the Pleiadians that came here, and they were responsible for the beings before the Caucasians of 6,000 years ago, known as the Flugerods, right? So I'm saying that to say that the crafts that Hitler had, he was given that information and he was building those, and that's why he almost won the war, because those crafts were aerodynamics. They call them flying saucers. But the type of crafts that these true extraterrestrials have come from different places here, they don't use aerodynamic, like, or they're able to morph or transform to the point where it's not like you're saying, Jackie, where their children are building crafts. Their children are trying to, as in, trying to go to Mars and trying to go to, different places, but they're getting, or they were getting guidance, and now their overlords have left them, so they no longer have that technology. So they already have crafts waiting. There's a, what's it called? The scroll that's got the farm. Anyone on the, I think it's the, might be, is it history? I don't have it with me. But there's a scroll where the master has a diagram of the farm on the front. When I say the farm, meaning like the craft waiting and harvesting and abducting people and preparing for food, that these crafts are already there waiting and doing this. And that's why people, like, they can take up to, I think, 300,000 people a day. And I've been doing so for a long time. But as time's getting more and more to the point of their departure, they're gonna speed things up. So we have this scroll called The Bridge to Salvation. We mention a lot of books because there's so much information for you to digest and prepare yourself that you should really be spending a lot of time studying. And it's not just about studying, because some people, okay, so you have evidence, reason, and experience. Evidence is good because that's how you get to the point of knowing and finding that information and all of that. Reasoning is you thinking at a higher level and making sense of what's going on. But experience is something that is even higher, because if you experience something, no one can't really tell you different. I mean, I'm not talking about if you're hallucinating or like, you're taking drugs or whatever. I'm talking about when you have a real experience, you know for sure. The best example is like if you were told fire burns, you can look at the evidence, you can look at pictures and look at people that have been burnt by fire, or you can reason it out and say, well, I can take a piece of paper, put it to the fire and see the fire consume it. So it reasons out that maybe if I put my hand in the fire, it will consume my hand. But the evidence is when you actually put your hand in the fire and get burnt, and you know from that point onwards that no one's got to tell you, you know that fire burns, right? So I'm saying that to say this information is transforming you to the point where you have certain powers and certain abilities. And at that point, you're going to be doing those things, not necessarily just reading books. You're just reading books, but you're not applying it. It's not transforming you. It's not changing to the point where you're experiencing things and knowing things where you don't have to go through that process of doubt. Like, people still doubt the master teacher in this day and time, which is really funny to some of us. Like, with all the information and the answers for everything you've ever wanted to know, where you can't even get that from anywhere else. To the point where he even shows you that God doesn't know certain things. The God of the Bible, the God of the Quran, so they don't know certain things. Where, how does he know things that they don't know? So what I'm saying is, this information is about, we don't just teach it like we say, yeah, you can become telepathic. You can have psychometry. You can, you can have intuition. You can have clairvoyance by way of you applying it. So you know things, you get affirmation, and it guides and helps you in your life. Now you try and tell somebody else that to help them. We say, look, this is real. Part is the way. Read it, study it, digest it, and it will activate you, and you will start to see the results in your life. However, even if you're the best superhero, you watch it's not Guardians of the Galaxy. What's the one where they all come together? Avengers, thank you. They still have to work together when they have a threat that, one of them by their own is not going to do it. So we are those superheroes, but we have to work together to basically do what we have to do. But we have a guide, we have someone giving us all the information and all the things that we need to do that. All right, so last question. What options and actions would you suggest that we can participate in to support the release of the master teacher? Now this is perfect for the last, coming to the last part of the class. The first thing we say all the time is study, read, so that you not believing and you're coming from a point where you know for yourself. Okay, that's the first thing. Then the second point is get close. Like, I don't know where you are, Akawag. If you're in the UK, you should be here working with us. If you're in America, go to your nearest community, nearest bookstore, get involved. Everything you see around you is being done by someone or some people. And people don't take the time to ask, like, what help do you guys need? Support the legal by, you can contribute a free will offering financially, and that's on the website, to the Acts of Kindness, at outlook.com. That's the email address and a PayPal address as well. It's on the website. And you can donate because every little helps. So yeah, you can do that. You can be a part of the community. And another thing as well, relating to that, like I said at the beginning, don't wait to be like spoon-fed. Get involved. Like, people fill out the form to join, and if they don't hear anything because we're overwhelmed or whatever, that becomes the end of their journey. Like, they don't say, let me phone, find out what's going on, come around and just get involved. You have to make it count. The bridge to salvation is you putting yourself, you have to be in it to win it, right? I'm not saying we're not going to, contact you or whatever, but I'm saying, like, you have other people who just come around and then they just here. They start joining in, helping out, getting involved. Then you've got to be on the calls and you've got to be in the know, as they say, right? So, we have worldwide conference calls every month. We have, if you're a man, you should be a Nuwapian man and come to the Nuwapian man meetings, and then you get more information from the inside out and not from just being a spectator on the outside, guessing and thinking this and thinking that, going by hearsay. So yes, when you're close, you'll know exactly what's going on. So I hope that answered that question. How do you suggest we can participate to support the release? Yeah, we've got to work together and help. And there's a lot of other work that's being done. And you're not going to really know the full details from the outside. All right, that's for Akawag. That's the last question. Have we got anything on Clubhouse? Anyone on Clubhouse before we go?
So, we have a question from Sunra. How do we regain, recharge our energy from being trained by this world?
How do we get? I didn't catch the last part. Could you just read that again, please?
Regain or recharge our energy from being trained by this world.
Okay, that's kind of ties into what I just said about being involved with the family, but also reading the scrolls and putting into practice things like your diet, changing your diet, putting the practices into, like, cleansing yourself, fasting, meditation, doing the chants, and and yeah, really being around the family to know what to do. Joining, if you're a brother, the brotherhood, or starting off as an Nuwapian man to work your way to that. If you're a sister, get involved with the community and then work your way to being a part of OES or the sisterhood, where you get more information about that. But it's about coming together, like the title of the class, unity, or you're going to be easy pickings. You're going to be out there on your Jack Jones. If you watch those Walking Dead movies as well, it's funny because you always have people who think that they've got a better idea. They think, let me go by myself. I'm okay. I got my money in my bank. I got my own house. Let me get my own bunker and prepare and store food and all of that on their Jack Jones. And then what happens in the movies? They just come and take all your stuff because you're by yourself. So this individualism doesn't work. We're tribal community people. We can only succeed by working together and when we say together, we're not delusional and expecting that you're gonna get every single person to come and work together. It's about those who get together. So, it's about those people that want to work together and come together and get the job done. Because regardless, there will be those who are able to come together. And there will be those who are going to be on the menu. You just got to choose which one you are. Last question. Go ahead, sis. Sorry, can you use the mic, please? Okay, you might have to come. Yeah, there you go.
Going back a bit, when you're speaking about like Dracula, what has Dracula got to do with mirrors? Is there any relation between mirrors and Dracula?
Yes, but you have to realize the movies are movies, yeah? So a lot of the stuff they tell you in the movies doesn't actually work. Like all this cross business, like that's just reinforcing religion and the garlic and all the stuff. Like they tell you that, Dracula will be scared of the silver cross and all that. The Damien movies showed you that didn't work. But there is an element of truth in the sense that when you're dealing with disembodied entities or you're dealing with like disagreeable entities, like people refer to them as ghosts, mirrors stop them from coming in because in the different realms you have different rules of engagement. Like they can't do certain things. Like the mirror is a reflection and it will stop them. So we advise and we're told like to put mirrors around, like the entrances of your house facing outwards. That would stop them coming in. Also things like salt, they can't cross over salt. So there's certain different rules in that realm that they have to abide by. So that's where the mirror will kind of tie in. But yeah.
Sorry, it's only that because when
You're not using the
I've
mic.
seen those movies and
Yeah.
they always show Dracula when the Dracula is facing the mirror, you can't see their reflection.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked that.
I know, and I'm saying that there is an element of truth to that, but I'm saying in the movies, again, it's all sensationalized. So, but yeah, mirrors do have an effect on certain disagreeable entities. So, but there's other things we do as well, like when you're engaging with speaking to people in the spiritual world, like you use sage and things like that to kind of clear out the room. And it's not just the sage, it's the intentions and the utterance of what you do as well. Because some people just get sage and burn it and say it doesn't work. But it's about you as well, like your energies and your intentions. So it's about your power connecting with what you're doing that brings the result. It's not just like, doing it, because if that's the case, everyone and anyone would do the same thing. But for some people it works and for others it doesn't, because it all ties back to you as well. your intentions, your energy, etc. Yeah. I think, is there any other question on Clubhouse? Zamal?
No, so I think what was there was answered by Zamal Hatwi.
Okay. Huawei. Okay, so last 2 minutes. Any burning questions? No? All right. So that means we're going to see you all doing some work. All right, Tawukum, which means thank you all in our language. Until the next, we're not going to have a YouTube live this Tuesday, the first time actually, but we're not going to be able to do that. So it'll be the following Tuesday. And class will be as normal next Saturday here, so same time, 7 o'clock. And we're always on, oh, someone's got their, someone's clapping. We're always encouraging people to sign up to the Telegram group, our Telegram group, if you haven't done so, because you can keep asking your questions by way of that as well throughout any time really that you have a question. But yeah, other than that, I want to thank you all for coming and see you next week. Tawukum. Wadu.